Do you realise that if you improve your pitching technique, this could help you hit the ball further and more consistent with your long game? Now, for those who watch this channel regularly, know that my specialism is in the physical component of golf as well as the swing biomechanics. So talking about pitching is a little bit left field for me. But understanding the ground reaction forces during a pitching motion and how you can improve these to change trajectory, ball flight with the actual pitching can help you understand how you can move differently with your irons and your driver to hit the ball further and more consistent. So I'm going to show you two different pitching actions that you're likely to fall into that is negatively influencing your strike, your launch control, your distance control, and just in general the movement through the ball, which is probably showing up through the rest of your game. And understanding how we improve this could change your tee to green performances. So first and foremost with pitching, when we watch on TV, we can see that they send the ball flight consistently in lower with lots of spin. It's normally a 1 or 2 bounce and the ball's standing to attention. Now we know that they're able to send the ball in low with lots of spin because of how they're delivering the club. But with amateur golfers, that's the fundamental flaw. And again, it's important to understand how we change the launch. Now we know to optimize spin, we need the launcher just below 30. That's an optimization. So let's just say around 28 degrees with a 54-degree wedge. Now the first one, we're going to see the drive. So naturally the player is going to want to get ball first contact to ensure strike, but also they're wanting to get the ball a little bit further in the back to aim to do that. So we'll see very much that kind of punchy, the ball coming in hot type action. And then secondly, the other one, which might be a little bit further forward, we want to keep loft on the club, so we're going to try and almost release that club quite hard and almost get underneath it and hang back a little bit. Let's look at the ground reaction forces and how they differ and why they're not in line with what we want to see. So let's break down the differences in these actions from a ground reaction force perspective. Now the first one was very much keeping the ball low, ensuring ball contact first, and almost a more drivey action. Now when we look at this bottom graph, what I want you to pay attention to in all these videos is the blue line. That is my left foot from a vertical force perspective. So as you can see here, I do a really good job of keeping most of my weight on my left side. If you look in the top right hand corner, you can see 70% of my pressure's on my left side, which is a good thing because we don't need a big pressure shift. But as I move the club down, notice how there's a slight increase in the blue line. That's me pushing vertically. But notice also how it's quite gradual and there's not really much of a drop off. Now, if we look at my action, my video in the top left, you can notice how my left leg stays very flexed. You notice how my head and my hip, my chest stay very down. So I'm essentially staying in the shot. I'm staying down in posture. And that's what's going to promote very much a drive in action, the club staying almost down on the floor and into the turf for a long period of time. Now, if we go to the opposite type action, to get more height, to get more, what instinctively will feel like more spin, we can see, look at the big difference in the takeaway. I'm moving onto my trail side. So I'm shifting off the ball with the view of trying to get under it, to try and hit behind the ball in essence to get more height. The problem is with this is naturally then I'm not into my left side very well and I'm getting a big vertical force. But again, notice how because I'm essentially behind, my low point's behind, I'm more likely to hit the ground consistently first. I'm essentially staying in the shot with my ground force again, but notice how my upper body is shifting backwards. So my head and my chest is behind the ball, which is really not ideal for ensuring good strikes and good launch control with the right loft. So those are almost polar opposites. Now they can be specialized shots, but in terms of quality and consistency with pitching, neither are going to be used very often. If we look at the pitching motion, which we'd class as more an effective movement, notice the middle ground. So I stay on my left side, which is really effective. So I'm keeping my pressure left, which allows me to pivot around my lead side. Notice how then there's more vertical spike with that blue line as I'm coming into the delivery, and see how then that changes how my left leg is straighter. I'm almost standing up more through the shot. So in the follow through, I'm turning and the chest and head is essentially elevating with it. So this in essence is bringing the club out the ground, but but I'm bringing the club out the ground vertically by using more vertical force. And if we look at that blue line, as I hit the ball and go through, notice how there's a significant drop off. So that's not me staying down in the shot, that's me elevating and coming out the ground. Now, because I'm not doing this with lots of speed and power, because it's a pitching motion, we're not seeing big high forces, I'm only moving with a little bit of my body weight, but because of how I'm going to be delivering the club with that one more efficiently, we're going to change launch characteristics. If you're liking this video so far, please leave a comment below and like the video, and also make sure you subscribe to the channel. It helps so much more than you'll realize. So as we talked about there, how could we get more vertical force into our pitching motion to help with the longer clubs? So again, let's think about what I'm doing. So when we say vertical force, the vertical force is almost the pushing out the ground. Now, the pushing out the ground, people get worried because they think that's going to be them standing up and almost this early extension principle. Think of it more as my lead side pushes up and out, notice how this brings the grip, the handle, up with it. But that doesn't mean that the club's coming up strictly in its own right, because we obviously have our right hand, our trail hand in my instance, that's going to essentially be keeping the club into the ground. So when you watch these great pictures of the ball, notice how they almost can brush the turf. A really good example, if you watched the Masters recently, Jason Day actually hit a pitch shot on the 16th green and didn't take a divot but had loads of spin. So they're still hitting very much down on the ball, but because they're not staying down driving or trying to kind of add loft, they're able to almost bring that club out the ground through their vertical force to help control strike, launch, and consistency. So a really simple drill I want you to do lots of, and start with small pitches, is we're going to bring the right foot behind, so most of the weight and pressure is on the left side, if not everything. Naturally, we want to almost feel like the chest and the head are towards this left side. Ball position can be quite middle. We want to ensure that contact first. Club face can even be open. We don't need to have the handle majorly forward. It almost can be slightly open, handle high. And we're just going to feel like this left side, or this lead side, we're going to turn around and up. So if I was to draw a dot in the middle of my club face, as I'm working through the shot, I want to see the center of the club face in line with the center of the chest. Now, if I was driving, the center of the club face would naturally be out over in front, so we'd not have a lot of turn. If I'm flipping, the center of the club face naturally is going to be more this side and pointing more towards my head. So that's a really good reference point, and just focus on almost like you're trying to push out the ground and just get this elevation, like the center of the chest and the head is driving up and around. We're not doing this with power, so we're not going to be jumping as such, but it's almost the feeling. Now, if I do this at almost like 30% speed, I only need to swing to my pocket, I can just ensure a really simple strike. Now, when we look at this on launch, I'm getting that at 26 degrees with 5,000 revs of spin. So that ball is launching low, but it's going to stop quickly. Whereas all I've done is clip that ball. So in essence, as I'm coming up, I'm bringing it out the turf. So I'm going to get that nice, simple push out the ground with no shift. Now remember, go back to the one where we tried to get lots of height, shifting onto the trail foot, popping it up, losing strike, losing control, losing distance. Now I'll do the same motion, but longer, with the same action, but I'm going to just turn longer. And I'm going to make sure that I really bring the center of this chest and the head up and around. Now straight away, that's gone further, 20 yards further at least, but my launch is still down at 26, and I'm getting 7,000 revs of spin. So that ball is going to be consistently spinning when it hits the ground, and it's not going to be coming in hot, but at the same time, it's not going to be popping up on me. And all I'm doing here is controlling the club face, the strike, and the depth of the swing by pushing up. Now we know vertical force is great for that with the long swing and distance and strike. So if I now go into a much longer swing, but I keep a similar tempo and just stay on this lead side and turn up and around. Now, naturally launch is going to be up because I'm swinging faster, but I've controlled my depth. So straight away I've kept launch at 29 degrees, still under 30, even though the ball's carried 80 yards. So you can see why this drill and understanding the differences in pitching is so important. And you can do lots of rehearsals of this, of just kind of without hitting a ball, to really feel how that lead side is pushing up and allow the chest and the head to move up and around. Now, this is where we're going to bring it into the irons. So if I take an 8 iron and I do exactly the same drill, nothing changes here. We're just focusing, we can do it quite slow, we're just going to focus on keeping on the lead side, but when we hit, we're turning up and around. Now, this is obviously not going to be a full swing per se, but it's can we get strike and the movement. Now, my feel is almost like when I get to the top of the swing, because I've stayed lead side, I've not technically got the pressure shift or the big lateral shift that most of you know, because I've stayed lead side. So my feel is stand up and turn. Now again, we know from ground reaction force data that I'm not standing up in the conventional early extension sense. I'm essentially pushing out the ground to give the space through the hit, because obviously my lead hip now will turn and extend. Now the chest can turn and elevate up and around, and now my arms have got space to work through. And this is so important to controlling that strike, that depth of the swing, which most amateurs struggle with because they either hit the ground first or they drive into the ground and get big raking divots. This is almost managing both of those issues. So if we go that one more step where, yes, we're going to still be in the same position, but we're going to do a longer swing, which is naturally going to make us shift a bit more, but just feel like you stay a bit more left and really turn hard around and move out the ground. Now you can hear that's a really good strike because essentially I'm going to pressure the ball with that. So if I was standing up in a conventional sense, there's no way I'm getting pressure on the ball because essentially I'm not going to be able to strike it properly. I'm going to be really steep, or I'm going to fin it and clip the ball too clean, which is going to go really high. But even looking at those numbers there, launch angle 17 degrees, spin 7,500, carry 165. So we know functionally what's happening with the ball is not what the feeling is. Now if we take that into a full swing, normal setup, remember, we're going to load up normal. You might feel like you stay more left or more to the lead side. And then from there, we're going to try and push and stand. And it's, again, trusting that if we do that motion, the lead side's going to come up and around with a handle. The right side tilt's going to happen. Let's see if we can do that. And again, we can see with that follow through, I'm up and around the lead side. Taking that one step further into your longer clubs and driver is the exact same feel, but my purpose of this drill is if we can't move from here to here by pushing out the ground vertically with the right time, the right sequence, and control strike and launch, imagine how much harder it is by the time we get to the top, have to shift at max speed with the longer club. We're going to struggle to get that sequence, we're going to struggle to get that timing and that awareness of where the body is in relation to the club face. So my advice is start with the pitching, understand which one you fall into, get really good at that drill, start to notice the difference, and then work it up into the longer clubs and see how that changes the impact. If you like that video, let me know how you get on, comment below, please subscribe to the channel and watch this other video that talks about how you can compress your irons that links in with this.